It's been 1 year since Chip Spinning became the executive director of Franklin County Children's Services. And in this past year, he and his staff have been able to reach several milestones. And they've also faced some tough challenges, and that continues into this next year. With more now is Director Spinning. And Chip, it's nice to see you again. And it's been a year.
Yes.
So what have you learned about not only your agency, but, Columbus as a whole, our community?
I've learned a lot. It's a great community. There's a lot of support within the community for not just what we do, but just serving kids in general throughout the community. A lot of great community partners. I've been able to look at the work that we do at the agency, and it really matches our guiding principles. And I see that every day in the work that our staff does.
It's interesting. I always like to get people's perspective on our city when they come from out of town. And I always do hear that we are a giving community. Do you see that on the volunteer basis and what you see at FCCS too?
I would say without a doubt that's the case. If we would just look at what we did with our Holiday Helpers program this year for Christmas with the bike lady, she gave us over 800 bikes. I mean, we had just lots of community support. It was really just great.
It's wonderful. Well, I know you also face challenges too. The volunteers in the community are wonderful, but the challenges in our economy have been really serious this year. So that in turn meant that you had to deal with some things too.
That is true. Like most other agencies, we're challenged with an increase in demand for our services. I think last time I was here, I talked about the increase in the amount of calls for children. This year, we went over 30,000, which is the most we've ever done.
Ever in the history of the organization?
Yeah, 30,256.
Wow.
So it's really been a lot of increased demand, but within that, we've done a really good job of keeping our caseloads very stable. We've done that by providing a lot of upfront services, really connecting families with community-based organizations as soon as possible with our family-to-family program and the settlement houses and things like that.
I was going to say, what are some of the things that you've been able to do for families? You mentioned a few, and one is, in general, sometimes just teaching parenting, which we all take for granted, but isn't necessarily a given. People don't necessarily have those skills.
Right. I mean, just because having never been a parent before, you may not know exactly what that was like, or you'll do what you learned from your parents. So sometimes we can just connect them with community resources or service providers that can provide parenting and different modeling for what a good home-like situation looks like.
But no matter the services that you bring to a family, sometimes there's always fear from a family. Franklin County Children's Services is coming to join us or to take part in our family. How do you dispel the fear of those families so that they welcome you instead of that fear factor?
Yes, the number one thing is that we really want to work with the family to try to maintain the children in their home as much as possible. We have what we call alternative response, which is a different approach that we're using with about 50% of the cases that come in, and it really allows the family to be more engaged in the process. They can come to us with their challenges, and we can help put a plan together to begin to meet their needs and really include them in that whole process.
That inclusiveness is probably the part that makes them feel a little bit more at ease.
I think so, yes.
So what do you see ahead for the next year? I know the challenges will continue, and if this was your busiest year yet, I would expect that next year is going to be more of the same.
I do think it'll be the same because we know with the economy we're still seeing challenges, and so our families are still going to experience some of those tough situations. But we have a new building that we have an open house tomorrow at 6:30.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. It's at 4071 East Main Street in Whitehall. We're taking 3 locations and combining them into one, and that there's just going to be a lot more services there for families. It's going to be a more family-like setting. There's actually a playground and things where we could do supervised visits outside. It'll be really nice.
And you're probably combining some services in one place, make it easier access for people as well?
Yes, we're taking 3 different locations and combining them into one, and it's on a bus line, and it should be a lot better service to the community.
We mentioned earlier that volunteers are a big part of what you look for to help with your staff at Franklin County Children's Services. How else can the community help? What can they do to help children in Columbus?
Well, we can't do this work by ourselves. It requires the entire community and all of our partners. And if anybody would ever suspect or have a concern about abuse and neglect, they could call our hotline at 229-7000. Or if they want to volunteer, they could call us at 275-2571, and we could get them involved and start volunteering and working with our kids today.
We've had that number up there, and it's a very important number for people to remember. And as we always say, it's anonymous, and you can follow up and you do the work. They just need to sometimes know about it. So
right.
We thank you and your staff for the work that they do and the continued work you do. Chip, it's nice to see you, and thank you for being with me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.